In today's video, we're talking about the 5 most common mistakes that runners make. Number one mistake that runners often make is that they neglect strength training. I remember in high school when I began distance running, I found myself quickly making the excuse that I got my run in the day, workout's done, no need to do anything else. And soon enough, I built this habit of continually telling myself that, and over a period of 6 months and a year, I hadn't found myself in the gym at all, and I had started losing a lot of strength. And strength isn't only important for running fast, running far, achieving your goals, achieving PRs, accomplishing big things. It's also important for the longevity of your body over the course of decades and however long you want to run. It's also really important for injury prevention. So the number one mistake that runners often make is that they neglect strength training. It's important to break those excuses and find 1 or 2 windows during the week where you can include strength training. A mistake that runners often make is that they major in the minors. Today, there is an endless list of supplements, running shoe technology, post-workout, recovery tools, foam rolling, all these things that we can find ourselves becoming so enamored by, so obsessive over, so worried, concerned about. Are you getting this in right after your workout? Are you getting this supplement in every day? While those things are valuable, they add a little bit of potentially performance or recovery to your overall regimen. What's most important is the majors, not the minors. And what I call the majors is your overall training program, your sleep, and your nutrition. If those things are not going well, if they're not consistently going well, if they're not going on the right trajectory, and your other things like your little recovery tools and the running shoes that you're all enamored by and the supplements that you're taking, if those are your fix and focus, that's a wrong priority of focus, right? We need to put our focus and value on sleep, on nutrition, on our overall training program. And when you get those things dialed in, I do believe that supplements, the type of shoes you have, the type of running clothes that you have, what you're doing before you run, what you're doing after you run, with all the cool new technology, those things are valuable, but don't become obsessed over them. The third mistake that runners often make is that they lack structure and progressive overload. I don't know exactly who said this quote before, but essentially, when you do the same thing over and over again and expect different results, that's the definition of insanity. I think it's so easy for runners to get comfortable in a specific length of a run or a specific pace, and that they just do that like clockwork. And well, that's good, that's consistent, that's maybe keeping you in shape. It's not going to build your fitness to a new height. You're probably not going to see PRs. You're probably not going to reach those new goals that you have if you're just doing the same thing over and over again, day after day, week after week, month over month. And so I think it's so important to include some structure in your training, and also include, if you're building towards a half marathon, a 5K, or even a marathon, to include some progressive overload, which is essentially just bumping up the mileage a little bit each week. So if your long run is 6 miles right now, maybe next week you're going to go for 7, week after 8, maybe you're going to build up to 11 or 12. That's progressive overload. And when it comes to structure, it's so important to include a long run in your week. It's just so important for your aerobic VO2 max development, and also to include an anaerobic workout, whether that's mile repeats, hill repeats, a fartlek, or maybe 400-meter repeats on a track. You need to include fast things. While those things shouldn't be a whole bulk of the mileage that you're doing, they need to be a part of your training. So I say 80% of the time you need to include zone 2 running, easy running, just your normal morning miles, but you also need to include a long run. You need to include workouts if you have the goal of improving as a runner. Fourth mistake that runners often make is that they run too hard too often. I think this is more common amongst newer runners as they're introduced to the sport. They're excited, they get that adrenaline, they experience that running high for the first time, and they're constantly doing the runs very hard. They're not giving themselves recovery runs. They're not giving themselves easy, slow jogs to just enjoy, let your body be in a very low zone, low heart rate to recover. And so I found myself in high school. I was so competitive. I was so excited to do well. I was just constantly running as hard as I could on runs. And I eventually found myself more prone to injury. I found myself more injured. And eventually I just could not run more miles because I was running them too hard. And so as I progressed into college, I had to learn to run slower. I had to learn to slow down. I had to learn to save that energy and that excitement and that push for the workout or for the long run when it was actually appropriate to do so. And so this mistake is often found in new runners, but it's also prone to older runners, well-seasoned runners. Maybe if you take a break and come back into it, you're excited, you want to run fast, you're like, wow, I feel good. But it's important to listen to your body, give yourself ability to recover, give yourself easy runs, give yourself zone 2 running where you're just keeping your heart rate lower. And it's going to just overall help the longevity of being a runner if that's your goal lifelong. And it's also just going to help you build bigger training blocks, longer training blocks. You'll be able to run more miles when you're not running as too hard too often. And so that's the fourth mistake that runners often make, is that they run too hard too often. The fifth and final mistake that runners often make is that they are too focused on the outcome and they don't enjoy the journey as much as they should. And I'm not here to say that PRs don't matter. I'm not here to say that achieving your big goal of accomplishing your first marathon does not matter. Those things matter a ton. And those things are really important that guide you and push you and motivate you each day. But what I realized is overrunning hundreds of miles, thousands of miles, tens of thousands of miles, they learn there's so many things out of your control. The weather, it's out of your control. Whether you get injured that season, it's kind of out of your control. While there's certainly things you can do, there's things like stress, things that happen in life to us that are out of our control. And so often it's really important to find yourself enjoying the process. Running is really just about that. It's the journey. It's not just crossing the finish line. It's not just finishing the race and, getting your PR. I mean, I read just the recent post about Super Bowl winning champion AJ Brown of the Philadelphia Eagles. And he said that feeling lasted 2 days. Being a champion just lasted 2 days. That's all. And he said, I love the process, and that's why I'm committed to this game. And so often I think we can tell ourselves that, we're going to be so much happier when we get that PR, when we qualify for that race, when we complete that first race. But if we're not enjoying the journey, that's most of life. That's most of running, right? It's, we're going on 2-hour runs, some of us, and we're, get that feeling of, I'm finished for, maybe 2-3 minutes after. It's a grand scheme of 1% of the big thing that we're spending the time on. And so it's so important to find yourself enjoying the journey. Include things in the journey that you can enjoy. Just be grateful that you get to go out and run each day, because the outcome is often out of our hands. We don't get to control the weather. We don't get to control our opponents. We don't get to control what's happening in our lives that's affecting our running ability or injury, or, maybe you want to sleep really well the night before a big race, but you have kids. There's so many things that are out of our control that we, overwhelm ourselves with the outcome. And so the fifth and final mistake that I see runners make is that they're too focused on the outcome. I encourage you to enjoy the journey. Thank you.